Cusack, everyone.
Hi. You guys are great. I'm having so much fun here. Who was that? Oh,
Right back over there.
Can I have you?
So how's everybody doing today? It's Sunday, it's the last day of the show. See how much I love the show?
I mean, that's all I've heard from everyone is that it's a real family, this show. It's so awesome.
Now, is there like a question or any questions that you just keep getting asked over and over again? Like what's the most asked question you've been getting at these shows?
Is Sheila coming back? I get that. I get that one.
Yeah. And?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
so
know.
we can get it out of the way.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll get it.
Yeah. I stopped doing the show because my older son, it was his last year of high school, and I just, he was trying to figure out college stuff, and I just wanted to be there because it was an intense year. And it was getting so crazy, that show. That show is crazy. I mean, it's crazy. And I was like, maybe that's enough of that. Maybe it is. So, but I mean, it is such a great show.
Oh yeah, the cast is incredible.
Yeah, so.
Now, I heard a rumor that William H. Macy used to babysit you when you were younger?
He did. I think it was one time, and because he was, I think he went to the university, someplace in Illinois he went, and then he was part of a theater group in Chicago, and
the Piven?
he wasn't part of that, but I don't know, I can't remember, but yeah, so one time, my parents were involved in the art stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it happened. And then he was a carpenter, and he built these little cubby holes in our kitchen. So we had those for a long time. And my mom would say, "Yeah, William H. Macy built the cubby holes." It was weird. Whatever.
Yeah, because, going back and reading, you lived in a neighborhood with a couple of famous people growing up there, whether it's, William H. Macy or, Jeremy Piven and all
Well,
those
the
people.
Pivens were actually, Joyce and Vernon Piven were part of, and tell me if this is boring,
Yeah,
because
just-
I won't go back there, but they were part of the University of Chicago, which was in Chicago, and they were part of this theater group that did in the 60s. It was all very kind of humanizing theater games. So they would play give and take and explore and heighten these theater games. And they were part of this this theory of creativity that you had to not be self-conscious, which you guys are also good at, by the way. But there's something really freeing if you're not self-conscious. You can kind of flow, and that's what they thought really real creativity was. So Bern and Joyce had kids, and they thought we should be teaching kids this. This is a good, so they opened this theater in Evanston for kids, and my sister and I just went. As my mom had 5 kids, she was like, "You go do that." And I got rid of those 2 for a little while. And I was really shy, and my sister was really outgoing, so she wanted to go, and I was like, But then, because you weren't allowed to be self-conscious, I really liked it, because it took that burden away. Isn't that interesting? Because you weren't allowed to be self-conscious. So I was like, wow. I like that, because somehow you couldn't, so that's how we all sort of started doing it. And Jeremy was, a younger kid. He was, did the theater games, and his older sister, and so that's what we grew up doing.
Yeah. Is that when you discovered your talent, your flair for, comedy, physical comedy, and all
Yeah,
that?
it was all those, those games we played where you just like you play a game. Maybe you guys have heard of these theater game things. It's all improv kind of stuff. Like you'd play a game to get, and you'd have two people sitting there, and you'd have to try to get the other person. Pretend you were in a train or something.
Yeah.
You have to get the other person to open the window. And you'd have to just think of a million different reasons how to get the person to open the window. And in doing that, you just come up with stuff you never planned on, but it was really fun.
Like, oh my gosh, I ordered tea with honey and there's a bee here. Quick, what do we do?
You're a natural.
Thank you. You heard it here first. Probably never hear it again. But...
Oh, I don't know about that.
And you've got such a great range, like whether it's comedy or whether it's, more dramatic. And, I see you play a lot of like the best friend roles, a lot of the supporting roles. And,
yes.
Yeah,
in fact, my son, who's coming later today, said, because Barb is here from Stranger Things, he goes, Mom, that's you. You were Barb. I'm like, that's so true.
But that's a really important role there.
It is.
They're the people that keep the story going.
It is.
Yeah,
it's a good, being supportive of someone is a good thing.
Yes.
We're leading ladies and men in our lives, but you need your best supporting friends to help you through, right?
Absolutely.
It's very psychological.
Don't be afraid to clap. So were there any roles that you took on that started out much smaller, and then once you were cast in the role, just got to a bigger role? Because I heard like with Shameless, originally that character was going to be much smaller, and then it just, it became such a big part.
I guess so. I didn't see the British version, so I'm not really totally sure how it was, but yeah, I think it didn't really start off as a comedy. I think that show, and then they changed it to being. So I tried to be really serious about it. But I think to keep my dignity, it just kind of veered into the comedy part maybe a little more.
Yeah. And now, you mentioned Chicago earlier. I hear you have a great love for that city.
Yeah, I lived there.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Shameless, it takes place in Chicago, but it's shot in LA.
That's right.
That's got to be tough,
Well, it's just one of those Hollywood ironies that they're like, well, you're going to play a woman who's agoraphobic, lives in Chicago, but you'll be flying to LA to play a woman who doesn't leave her house in Chicago. Funny?
When you were giving your famous speech towards the end of Addams Family Values, where you had everybody hooked up to the electric chairs,
oh, yeah.
I heard that you were cracking them up all so hard that some of them had to put cups in their mouths to stop themselves from laughing. Is that true, or one of those weird internet rumors?
I don't know. I don't remember that much, but maybe they did. It seems nice.
And no matter how many times I watch that movie, every time I hear Malibu Barbie, that always cracks me up.
Can I say someone was so sweet? Yesterday they came and brought me a Malibu Barbie. And he goes, I have something for you. And then he gave me the ballerina Barbie. Oh, is he here? I don't know. It was so sweet.
Are you here?
Oh my God, it was just killed me. And then I was like, do you really want me? Do you want the ballerina Barbie? And he was like, no, it's for you. It's so sweet.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, are you one of those people that keeps the toys in the box, or did you open it up and play with it? You don't have to answer that.
I do. I have a little store in Chicago. So if you guys ever come to Chicago, come visit me. It's like a urban general store. So we have all kinds of fun things and funny things. And for a while I made things, and I would make aprons and then I would sew little Barbie clothes on the aprons. So I do have a weird Barbie thing. I mean, maybe it started with that movie, and subconsciously and I like little things and really big things. So I don't know.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's like even the Barbie clothes. I would have saw that and thought maybe it was inspired by 16 Candles.
That's right. Maybe that's where it comes from too. Who knows? Who knows? God, this is like a therapy session. I'll tell you this was a great Robin Williams story. He was like an amazing guy, and just, it was like, like if you're a mathematician and you can just do those equations in your head, he had that like for being funny. So he could really kind of turn it on. I'm sure, people have heard this about him before, but just such a generous guy. So I'm doing this movie with him, and I was dating a guy at the time, and one day I think we were in that scene where it's outside and it's all green, and they had spray painted these lawns, and you're like, oh my God, this is so crazy that they did that. And anyway, he says, you know what? I just want to tell you, someday you're going to get married, and I want you to invite me to the wedding. I won't come, but I'll send you a really good present. So that I got engaged and was getting married, and I'd seen him in we'd done something else together, 9 months. And so I invited him to the wedding. He didn't come. He bought all the china for the whole thing, for a whole 12 table set.
Wow.
I mean, cool. But cool that he remembered, that he said that, cool that he did. He didn't have to. Just that's the kind of guy he was.
So were there any actors that you were just excited to work with, like Jack Black or Tom Hanks in Toy Story, and just like you found out you were gonna work with them, you were like, oh!
I'm so bad because I forget everything. Are any of you like that? My sister remembers everything, and I forget everything. I can't remember anything that's happened. But I do remember some. I mean, I think like Kevin Kline, who I didn't know what he'd be like to work with, was so fun. Because he was so talented, and he would play the piano, and he was doing theater, and he would quote Shakespeare, but he was just, like a magical, people that make it in the business, some of them are shy, and then some of them are performers. And he was like the performer type, and it's so funny to be around them, because they're so funny. Albert Brooks was another one in broadcast news. He was so funny, like this other level of funny. You're like, oh my God, how can that person just keep being that funny? Like, it was almost exhausting. But let's see. And William Hurt was on that, and I remember thinking, oh my God, he's so handsome. That was really fun. And let's see, who else was, and Robin Williams, that was really cool to work with. And Steve Martin, I remember being, oh my God, it's Steve Martin. And I went into the trailer, and he was really quiet. And I was like, wow, he's really quiet. Like he wasn't, and I didn't know that many, that kind of celebrity performers before. So, but that was really cool. And then I remember we were filming in San Luis Obispo, which is up in Northern California, and we went out to dinner to a sushi place, and we come into the restaurant, and everyone in the restaurant stops talking. Like the whole restaurant stopped talking, and look, they're like, that's Steve Martin. So then we sat down, and then they start talking again, and then he stands up, and everybody stops talking. He goes, I'm going to the bathroom.
You mentioned earlier about working on practical sets and how cool that is.
Yeah.
And
Nice. verbiage on that. I'm very impressed.
And on a series of unfortunate events, there's a lot of green screen. So how was it like working on that show as opposed to other shows?
Good question. They did have a lot of practical sets on the series of unfortunate events too. And interestingly, it was the same director, Barry Sonnenfeld, that did those two things. So he's really visual, so I think that was part of it, is, you know, if it's a practical set, you can really control everything because you've created it and it's there and you know what you're filming and you're not giving it away to whoever in computer land is going to do it. But wait, what was your question?
Hi, my question is, you worked with Toy Story. How does working as a voice actor compare to working as a live action actor? And what was your reaction when they called you back for Toy Story 3?
Well, it's definitely different just using your voice, and it's cool to work with those people because they hear stuff that you don't hear. So, you know, if you typically, I don't know if you've heard these stories before about how people do that work, but typically you don't work with other actors, you just have...
You show up in a room.
You show up in a room and you're totally by yourself and microphone, and then you repeat a line 3 times, but they were much more focused. So they'd have someone reading opposite you. They cared about it being, they cared about every little detail.
Yeah, and I hear they shoot your face so that they could bring that into the performance as well.
Right.
Now, has working...
Which with my over-animated freedom, they liked.
Has concentrating on your vocal performance carried over into your other performances? Because, you know, you were saying how it really makes you think more when you're just focusing on the voice work.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think I kind of took it for granted because I wasn't a singer and I didn't do that kind of typical theater training stuff. I was much more trained my own intuition than a structure and a performance. So it was kind of cool to refocus on just your voice and, you know, making something crisper or clearer or, you know, faster or, you know, just thinking that way. It was just kind of a cool, and plus it's very narrow, and they wanted it really emotional, so you had to really think about getting all that feeling in your voice, which was great.
Since you were an Academy Award nominee, what was it like to attend the Oscars?
Wow. Well, the first time I went, got all dressed up, and the guy actually from Working Girl was doing Meryl Streep, because she was nominated, was doing Meryl Streep's makeup and hair. So I went up and saw him, and then I got to meet her. And she said I looked like a Mesopotamian princess, so I felt really cool. And then I went to the ceremony, and I'm really overwhelmed, and I'm going through the line, and Joan Rivers says, "Are you wearing a girdle?" And I was like, you know, not fast enough or smart enough to make a joke out of it, because I thought, oh my God, that's my moment. You know, that it's about that, and like the tears are kind of welling up in my eyes, and I was like, well, I have hose on. You know, and then I'm like going into the thing, then I felt really bad. You know, and then I thought, this is so dumb. This is how you can start feeling in Hollywood sometimes. They just make you feel crazy. Like, this should be such a great moment. And part of it was just me not knowing, you know, because I'd never gone and no one told me, you know, that it's about how you look and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I knew that, but I just wasn't prepared to handle that part of it. And so, you know, you think afterwards, like, you should feel like $1 million. Or like, did anyone see Molly Shannon when she won You know, that's how it should feel, you know, no matter what. That was just such, I love that, how she was, because that's how it really is. You should just feel happy about it, but it's intense. So long way of saying it's an intense experience going through that.
Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful experience.
Yeah.